Today, we'll be getting into a guide to Disney Cruise Line to help you decide if it's right for you and your travel party. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Sunday, January 4th, and you're listening to episode 122, Disney Cruise Line for Beginners. So this is our second episode of the day, so we won't have anything new in regards to news, obviously. We're recording this just over a week ahead of the air date. Like we said in our last episode, we're actually recording this early because I fly home just before midnight on January 12th, and this episode airs on the 13th. So we wouldn't have actually had enough time to record and edit that episode essentially before the release. But we will be recording a trip recap of the marathon week for the following episode that's going to air on January 20th. When I come back, essentially, at the end of that week. And then we can catch up on any news that might have happened, because I'm sure there will be some over that 2-week period. Essentially, so those news that we miss, we'll cover at that time. But with that, let's get into today's main topic, which will be essentially an introduction to Disney Cruise Line. This is an update to the episode we did around this time last year. But, there's been some updates with the Treasure had just launched when we last spoke about it. And now we have the Destiny. So we're just going to get into, an updated guide, essentially.
And since then, we have cruised as well. So, we can also share our experiences from that last cruise trip. And
essentially, we're fresh off a cruise, really. So, we'll get into how many ships are in Disney Cruise Line in their fleet, right? And the new ships that are coming in the future, near future or distant future, somewhere in that mid-range, I would say. And we'll also get into what the different ships have to offer, where they sail from, which, can help you decide which ship you'd maybe want to cruise on as you're looking, if you're looking. We'll also get into some of the finer details like dining, activities, booking windows, and any documents that you need to board, and just other general useful information if you're planning a cruise or if you're contemplating booking one in the nearest future.
Yeah, so Disney Cruise Line launched way back in 1998 with the Disney Magic. And in 2026, Disney currently has just added a 7th ship to their fleet, which was the Destiny, that just had its inaugural sailing back in December. And their 8th ship, the Disney Adventure, will have its inaugural sailing in the springtime from Singapore. And they will continue to grow to 13 in the coming years. That was announced at the 2024 D23 event. This includes a ship from the Oriental Land Company, who owns Tokyo Disney around 2028 or 2029. That ship's going to be the one that will obviously sail out of Japan. This will take us well into the 2030s. It's not outside of the realm of possibility that as some of these new ships enter the fleet and start regular sailings, the original ships may retire. But only time is going to tell on that front. The parks have had softer than expected numbers in 2025 and 2026, but DCL is having no such issues. It is firing on all cylinders. For sure. It is a popular choice for vacations.
Yeah, for sure. All signs point to DCL is just
on the up.
It's performing extremely well for Disney, and why not, right? We absolutely love cruising.
Yeah.
And clearly other people do, because everybody's booking cruises. And then something you'll immediately notice when you start to look into Disney Cruise Line is that they're expensive. And so, a lot of cruise lines have similar itineraries and destinations, and that on average are like a little bit or a lot less expensive than Disney sailings. But like all things, not all cruise lines are created equal, right? Disney Cruise, their ships rather, are beautiful. Like inside and out, there's specific offerings on board too that you won't find on other cruise lines, right? Like Disney characters, obviously, massive kids clubs instead of casinos, which you'll typically find in those big cavernous spaces and other cruise ships. They have fireworks at sea, non-alcoholic drink packages, or I wouldn't call it a packages. They're just included. There is no package for it, which is nice. And rotational dining that we're going to get into. And just to name a few.
Yeah, and then not only that, but the level of service you get is exactly what you would expect from Disney. So if you've been to a Disney park before, you'll have likely experienced what we're talking about, cast members that just go above and beyond to make sure guests have a magical vacation. And it's even better than that in our experience on a Disney cruise. I actually sailed on a Carnival cruise with my parents when I was 15, and it was awesome at the time because I didn't know any better. But now having sailed on DCL, it's honestly no contest. And my parents are big cruisers as well, but they've never done a Disney, and I'd be interested to see what they would think about that.
Yeah, what their take would be for sure.
It's not to say that there aren't other great cruise lines out there, but just Disney does it right for sure every single time.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that 100%. Now let's get into the existing ships. So the Disney Magic is the original Disney Cruise Line ship that launched way back in 98. Its sister ship, the Disney Wonder, launched a year later in 99. These ships have 850 staterooms with passenger capacity sitting at around 2,700. In 2011, Disney launched a new class of ship with the Disney Dream. Its sister ship, the Disney Fantasy, launched a year later in 2012 with the same passenger capacity, with both ships accommodating right around 4,000 passengers. These ships have 1,250 staterooms, and the newest ships are the Wish class ships, which just launched in 2022. And I say just, but yeah, I guess that was like almost 4 years ago now. And that was with the Wish. The Treasure launched in 2024, and the Destiny just launched last month, like in December of 2025. And all of these are sister ships, so they're Wish class ships. The passenger capacity and the number of staterooms is the same as the Dream class ships. That's 4,000 passengers and 1,250 staterooms. But the Wish class ships are larger by about 19,000 gross tons. So they're just bigger.
Yeah. And then when it comes to the staterooms, think of it as your hotel room on the ship. You're going to find a bed, which is usually a queen intended to sleep two. Then you'll have a sleeper sofa and a pull down that comes out from the ceiling. That is featured in most rooms. And then some rooms also have a fifth sleeper Murphy bed as well. There is, of course, a bathroom as well. Some have actually a split design with a shower and sink in one room and then a toilet and sink in the other, which is definitely nice to have when you have a whole family staying in one stateroom. We were really grateful for that in our last round.
Absolutely. Yep.
You're also going to have a mini fridge for leftovers and drinks, a TV, a table or desk, drawers, and some closet space, as well as a safe. There are 4 types of staterooms available. The cheapest will be the inside staterooms, which don't have an outside view. The ocean view staterooms will have a porthole that will allow you to see out. The veranda staterooms, and there's a subcategory for these, which are the family veranda rooms, which have a bit more square footage. These are the rooms we'll typically book when we sail.
Yeah, the family verandas.
Just because we just appreciate just that little bit of extra space.
For sure, yeah.
And then lastly, you have the concierge stateroom, which is either an ocean view, verandas, suites, or multi-story rooms. These also offer additional perks. There are also suites that vary by ship that are just insanely expensive.
Yeah, it's outside of the reach for...
Like you're a celebrity if you're in those.
Most people, for sure. And when you book your sailing, you're going to be able to book your room type and category, right? You choose that, and as well as the location on the ship. So you can actually pick your specific stateroom, like the deck, aft, forward, or midship. Like you get to pick exactly where you want to stay. The room category you choose will limit you to certain decks. Like, so for example, family veranda staterooms, they're only on certain decks. So once you filter that, it'll kind of show you which decks you can be on. But you'll usually have several options to choose from in terms of where you are on the ship. The exception here is if you book a guaranteed stateroom. So this is essentially a way to save money, but your room is going to be assigned to you closer to the sail date. So you won't actually get to choose. That's the trade-off you get for the savings. Now, when it comes to where the ships sail from, each ship has its home port, right? But they will have sailings from their home ports as well as different ports and destination throughout the years. This includes destination in North America, Europe, Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand, and soon to be Asia as well. So when you're on the Disney Cruise Line website, you can filter your search by travel timeline, departing from, so essentially where you're going to be leaving from, and sailing to, so the different destinations that a ship may sail to. So for example, you could filter cruises specifically departing from Vancouver here in Canada. Usually that's an Alaskan cruise, right? So that's kind of how it works.
Absolutely. So Disney's main ports are Port Canaveral and Port Everglades, which is in Fort Lauderdale. Port Canaveral is Disney's home port, and it's about an hour away from Walt Disney World, which is perfect for a land and sea vacation. And that's obviously no accident on Disney's part. Port Everglades is also a year-round port, just like Port Canaveral. And as of late 2023, they have also a dedicated terminal here. Throughout the year, there will usually be departures from Galveston, Honolulu, New Orleans, New York, San Diego, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. For international departure ports, historically, they have been sailing out of Auckland, New Zealand, Barcelona, Spain, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney, Australia, Italy, Copenhagen, Denmark, Dover and Southampton, England, and Vancouver, Canada, among others.
Yeah, and in terms of cruise length, Disney offers sailings of as little as 2 nights, right, and as many as like 2 weeks. But the vast majority of their sailings are in that 3 to 4 night range, and then 7 night range as well, with a few 5-night sailings sprinkled in. The most popular cruises by far are their Bahamian and their Caribbean cruises, which are offered year round. A question we'll often get is how long your first cruise should be. Now, obviously, that's pretty subjective, but what we always tell people is that generally speaking, a 3 or 4 night cruise is good for first timers. It's just long enough that, you kind of get your feet wet and you can get into, you just experience if a cruise is right for you, right? The downside is that it's pretty quick, right? And just by the time you're getting used to the ship, it's time to disembark, which is kind of a bummer. And on that note, 7-night sailings are nice, right? Because they give you a nice, long, relaxing vacation, and you're just going to get to know the ship a little bit better and just have more opportunities to experience everything the ship has to offer. For us, this is the sweet spot because it's long enough to really get familiar with the ship, and you just have just more time, right, to take advantage of just everything that's available, which is really a lot. Anything longer than 7 nights, and you should, right, be comfortable cruising because, that's a long time to be, on board. And if it's your first cruise and it's a 14-nighter and you find out that you're like awfully seasick.
That would be terrible.
That's a long time. Yeah.
Definitely if you've never done a cruise and you are worried about seasickness, 3 days.
Yeah, 3, 4.
Because if you're sick for 3 days, it's better than being sick for 2 weeks.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Yeah.
Another thing that should be a main reason why you book a certain ship and itinerary are the ports of call, which is where your ship will stop during your sailing. Your ports of call will depend on what ship you're sailing on and at what time of year and from where. There's no cost to leave the ship at the ports, but for the most part, any additional activities you choose to do during port days are going to be at an extra cost. The exception to this are Disney's private islands, which are Castaway Cay and Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point. Castaway Cay is near the Bahamas, and it's Disney's own island. They own that one specifically. Here you're going to find a beautiful beach, snorkeling to find submerged Disney characters, a kids club, an adults-only beach area, water slides, all-you-can-eat food location that are all included in your cruise.
Yeah, that's right. 2 actually, right?
Yes.
Cookies and cookies too. So yeah. And Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point is Disney's second island that started welcoming guests in the last couple of years. It's located on the southern tip of the island of Eleutheria, I think. That's how you pronounce it, in the Bahamas. It's not a private island, but it really has many of the same offerings that Castaway Cay has for Disney Cruise Line guests specifically. Outside of that, for the Bahamian and Caribbean cruises, there are port stays at places like Nassau, Bahamas, Mexico, Grand Cayman, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, among others. Whenever you're at port, you're going to be able to take part in port adventures. These are booked ahead of time. And like we said earlier, these do come at an extra cost, and they include activities like excursions, dolphin interactions, water parks, vehicle and boat tours, among many other options. Alaskan cruises have options like the White Pass Railway through Yukon and a helicopter flight to a glacier. Hawaiian cruises will have like volcano excursions. Long story short, wherever you port, you're going to have different options essentially for port adventures themed to, wherever it is that you are.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not all port days. So during your cruise, you are going to have days at sea where you won't port at all and you're just on the open water all day long. These are the perfect day to relax, explore your ship, and then just really take in everything that your ship has to offer. On our last cruise, we didn't leave the ship at all on our Nassau day, and we have absolutely zero regrets whatsoever for doing that.
No, for sure.
Because there's so much to do on the ship, and you're paying such good money to be on that ship. It's kind of nice to have a day on it.
Yeah, and it was only a 4-night sailing, right? So
exactly.
We wanted to spend some extra time on it. Yeah,
exactly. Another thing that set DCL apart are their themed nights and cruises throughout the year. You're going to find pirate nights on most sailings where guests are invited to dress as pirates, enjoy a special pirate-themed meal, and then you take part in a pirate party on the pool deck afterwards, which includes the fireworks at sea. There's also Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar theming on some of the cruises as well. And then beyond that, you'll have entire cruises that are themed. So, for example, around Halloween time, you're going to have Halloween on the High Seas cruise, which includes Halloween-themed decorations, characters in their Halloween costumes, trick-or-treating, among many, many other offerings. And then you're also going to have the Very Merry Time cruises, which feature the ships decked out in lovely Christmas decor, characters in their Christmas attire, and then Christmas-themed entertainment. Our most recent cruise was a Very Merry Time cruise, and we had an absolute blast. The big tree in the main
atrium or whatever you want to call it.
I'm looking for. It was perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. And of the main offerings on board that are majorly appealing to young families, right, are these kids clubs that we talked about earlier. So Disney has really impressive kids clubs. These are separated by age groups, so kids will always have other children essentially in their age range to play with. And what's awesome is that kids kind of organically will make friends, right? So our daughter made friends with a few of the girls during our last sailing, and friends of ours actually still keep in contact with some of the people that they've met on their cruises. We've not been to that level yet. We didn't have pen pals or anything, but we know that that's a thing. So Yeah. And then if you're worried about security, we like for the kids clubs, we get that, but Disney does a really good job of putting parents' minds at ease. So kids will get a magic band, right? So if you have them, you can bring them on board, or if not, they will have like rentals. And then the older kids can actually check themselves in and out of the clubs. Younger kids do need to be signed in and out by a guardian. So you, right? And then the Oceaneer Club caters to kids that are 3 to 10 years old. Edge is for 11 to 14-year-olds, and Vibe is for 14 to 17-year-olds. There's also the It's a Small World nursery. This is for kids aged 6 months to 3 years old. Note that the kids clubs are free, but the nursery does come at an additional cost, right? Because this is more obviously like a babysitter style care, and the kids clubs is a little bit more hands off, right? So it does just make sense. And we can't emphasize just how great these are. Like having the peace of mind that your kids are having a blast while you're doing something else, right? Maybe enjoying a cocktail with your spouse, or like going for brunch at Palo, or just, that's just good for everybody.
Many times on our 4-day cruise, the kids were like, can we go check into the kids club for an hour just before supper?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
exactly.
no
we went
problem.
to, what is the Star Wars Lounge? We went to the Rose. We went for brunch. Yeah, we got to do a bunch of stuff.
Absolutely.
Which was nice.
And then one thing that we're quickly going to mention too is that if your kids are different ages and they wind up in different clubs, don't worry. Of course, every kid is different, but the clubs are made to entertain specific age ranges. And if they can be open to playing with other kids, they're going to have a blast for sure. So actually on our next cruise, Sophia is going to be too young for Edge and Caleb is going to be too old for Oceaneer. We were a little bit bummed about this initially, but honestly, they barely played together when they were in the Oceaneer last time. They were just kind of off doing their own thing. So we're pretty confident that they'll be just fine at different clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
But it's not all kids clubs. They also have some great adult exclusive offerings on board as well. Each ship has dedicated spaces that are reserved for guests aged 18 or older. There is an adult-only pool, several lounges, the Senses Spa, and rainforest rooms. And there's also adult-exclusive dining options as well, like Palo and Enchanté. So even if you don't have kids, you can still do a Disney cruise and have a wonderful time. And then, of course, parents, there's plenty to do as a couple on the ship when your kids are just having a blast on their own at the kids club. So honestly, everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that's unique to Disney Cruise Line is the rotational dining. So the vast majority of the food offerings on board are included in the cost of your cruise, which is awesome. This also includes your non-alcoholic drinks, so no separate drink package required, right? And your rotational dining is also included in that as well. Rotational dining has you dine at essentially different restaurants each night, but your serving staff stays with you throughout the length of your cruise, so that essentially you're going to have the same staff serving you for each night of your cruise at the different restaurants, even though you're going to be in a different space. Like they change their outfits and they just show up where you are essentially, which is pretty cool. And what's extremely nice about that is that they get to know you and then you also get to know them. So it just makes, to me, it makes like, because there's gratuities on board and we'll get to that, but you know who it's going to, right? And like we really got to know our serving staff. So yeah, we know that essentially our dollars are going directly to them, and
they work for their gratuities. Honestly,
absolutely.
They do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, for sure. So
the ones we had, especially.
So you definitely develop a bit of a relationship there, which is really nice.
And this is Disney, so some of your meals will include live entertainment and characters, which is really fun. So obviously having everyone on board dine at the same restaurants at the same time would be completely cumbersome. So there are 2 dining times for rotational dining. Early dining is at 5:45, and then the late dining is at 8:15. This is booked and decided ahead of your cruise and will remain the same during your sailing. You will be assigned a time when you book, but you can always switch it ahead of your cruise.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, our 2 most recent cruises, we were booked at 8:15 twice, and I immediately switched it to 5:45.
I don't even like to dine at 8:15.
Yeah.
That's not my thing. So it wasn't even about our kids. I just don't like to dine at 8:15.
Yeah, it's a little bit late for us for what we're used to. So yeah. 5:45 works for us.
Absolutely. So generally speaking, families tend to go, obviously, for the earlier time for obvious reasons, but some kids who are a little bit older or are just used to later bedtimes can handle the later dining time. So it's honestly a personal preference. You know your kids best, so do whatever works for you and your family. And it's also important to note that you don't have to go to rotational dining if you don't want to. If you would prefer a different way to dine, you can dine at one of the adult-only restaurants on board like Paolo or Enchanté, or you can head to the main buffet like Marceline Market or any other food offerings on the pool deck. You can eat pretty much wherever your heart desires. But that being said, the rotational dining is definitely worth checking out, especially if this is your first sailing. You can do breakfast and lunch at the Marceline Market and the pool deck, and then dinners at your rotational dining so that you're kind of getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
that's honestly what we did, and it worked perfect for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So fair warning, though, that for the dining options like Palo and Enchanté, you do need reservations for these, and they do book up ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly. And generally speaking, there are 3 rotational dining restaurants, and these are going to vary by ship. So you're going to cycle through the 3 during a 3-night cruise. If you're on a 4-night cruise or longer, you'd eat at the other restaurants a second night. But you're also in that going to have a pirate night somewhere where they're going to have a different menu. So for example, again, taking our last cruise as an example, we ate at Worlds of Marble twice, but the second night was a pirate night. So there was a different menu.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of the rotational dining options on each ship, here are the restaurants on board. So the Disney Dream has Animator's Palette, Enchanted Garden, and Royal Palace. The adult exclusive options are Palo and Remy. The Disney Fantasy has Animator's Palette, Enchanted Garden, and Royal Court. The adult options are Palo and Remy on this one as well. The Magic has Animator's Palette, Lumiere's, and Rapunzel's Royal Table. Again, the adult exclusive option is Palo. The Disney Wish has 1923, Arendelle, A Frozen Dining Adventure, and Worlds of Marvel. The adult exclusives on board are Enchanté and Palo. The Disney Wonder has Animator's Palette, Tiana's Place, and Triton's, and Palo as well for the adult exclusive space. And the Disney Treasure has 1923, Plaza de Coco, and Worlds of Marvel. This is what we're sailing on next. So we're looking forward to eating at Plaza de Coco. That's going to be new for us. And the adult exclusives are also Palo and Enchanté. And lastly, the Destiny, which just launched last month, has 1923, Worlds of Marvel, and Pride Land's Feast of the Lion King, which apparently has an amazing show. And then, it's the same adult exclusive offerings with Palo and Enchanté.
Yeah, that's right. And then, like we alluded to earlier, there is a ton of quick service locations on board as well that are included in the cost of your cruise. And then there's also soda stations. There's ice cream on demand. Literally, you have soft serve stations where you can have soft serve ice cream as often as you want. Again, all included. Room service is included as well. So if you do want to eat without leaving your room, you can order breakfast items and then leave your order attached to your door, and then you'll have coffee and similar items delivered to you at the time of your choosing, which is actually kind of on a 7-night cruise. I think we're definitely going to do that because we'll just stay in our room one day and not be rushed out the door. So it's nice.
Yeah, totally.
Gratuities aren't included though. So that is something to be mindful of, but the food is included. So that's just awesome.
Yeah, agreed.
And then in terms of activities, there are pools and splash pads for the little kids. The ships also have, honest to God, they have rides that go all around the pool decks, depending on which ship you're on. The Disney Dream has the Aqueduct that was introduced to the ship back in 2011, and then a second version opened up on the Disney Fantasy a year later. It's an enclosed tube, essentially, and you board a 2-person raft. The tube is clear so that you can see all around, which is very, very cool. The Aqueduct was added to the Disney Magic in 2013, so it's technically newer than the Aqueduct on the Dream and Fantasy, but it was added to an older ship. There is no raft on this one. You just go down the slides tubing as is.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Aquamouse opened up with the Wish in 2022, and it was the most innovative water ride technology for a cruise ship at the time, which is we wrote it. Yeah, we wrote it. It's pretty cool. And this one is on a 2-person raft essentially, and it has like different elements that just take it up a notch from what you're going to find on the older ships. The Disney Treasure opened with it as well, and so did the Destiny actually in 2025 just recently. The Disney Wonder doesn't have anything like any of these other ships, right? When it comes to water rides, but it does have an open air water slide in the main pool area. So it's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
You also have Broadway level live entertainment on board, right? So if you've ever seen shows like Festival of the Lion King over at Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World, this is the kind of entertainment that we're talking about, right? So the shows are going to vary depending on what ship you're on. And the show has happened twice, right? So this matches the dining times. And obviously this is by design. So the thought is that people who have early dining are going to go to the late show, and the people that have late dining are going to go to the early show, so that essentially not everybody's at the show at once, or not everybody is dining at once.
Absolutely. The Disney Dream has Beauty and the Beast based off of the live action movie, The Golden Mickeys, which is a jukebox style show that takes the form of a faux award ceremony. And it also has the Disney Believe that depicts a daughter's relationship with her botanist father. The Disney Fantasy has Frozen, a musical spectacular, Disney's Aladdin, which is a shortened version of the film story, and Disney's Believe, just like on the Dream. The Disney Magic has Tangled, the musical, Disney Dreams, which depicts a girl talking with Peter Pan and includes scenes from a variety of Disney movies, and Twice Charmed, which is the original take on the Cinderella story. The new Disney Treasure also has Disney's Aladdin, Disney Sees the Adventure, where Goofy takes the helm of the ship and it features the classic Disney characters. They also have the Tale of Moana, which features the massive Tafiti puppet. And it's a really great show that we cannot wait to see when we sail on the Treasure early next year. The Disney Wish also has Disney Sees the Adventure and The Little Mermaid, which is a version of the live action film, and also Aladdin. And last but not least, the Disney Wonder has Frozen, a musical spectacular, The Golden Mickeys, and Disney Dreams. The Destiny has the new Hercules show, which has been getting great reviews, Frozen, and Disney Sees the Adventure.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard really, really good things about that Hercules show. So
I'm sure it's good. You love Hercules, so that would be a fun one for you.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, great shows not to be missed. There's also movie theaters on board, right? So they're going to screen Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars movies, right?
Which I think is such a fun thing to have on board.
Yeah,
I thought that
absolutely.
was such a smart thing. Like, we unfortunately, because we were a little bit less busy, we didn't get to do one. But I think on our 7 night, we'll go and take in, if there's a fun movie, we'll just go grab some popcorn.
We popped our head in just to look at them, and they're really, really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
And another cool thing too is that if your cruise happens to line up with the release of a movie,
that's right,
they're actually going to screen it when it releases on land, which is pretty cool. So to recap what we've covered so far, right? Let's talk about exactly what's included in the cost of your cruise. So essentially what the things are that you don't have to pay extra for. So this obviously includes your stateroom, the vast majority of your meals, including room service, non-alcoholic drinks for the most part, with a few exceptions like specialty coffees, live entertainment, pools and water activities, kids clubs, and all taxes and fees. Things that are an extra cost are specialty dining experiences. So think like the adult exclusive restaurants we mentioned, specialty and alcoholic drinks, off-ship port adventures, and tips and gratuities, which we'll touch on more in a second. And other things to consider too when you're kind of planning for, budget purposes, your ground transportation to and from the airport or your hotel to the port are not included, right? And then also parking if you're driving. This isn't an exhaustive list of, everything that's paid and not paid, but it's a good starting point for sure.
Absolutely. And then actually on the topic of gratuities, this is definitely something that you're going to want to budget for. So Disney Cruise Line expects that you will tip at least 4 positions. These are your server, your assistant server, your dining room head server, and your stateroom host. Your server will be the main service provider during your rotational dining experiences. The assistant server will help as well with drinks, food, and cleanup. You'll get to know them better than any other positions, more than likely. The head server will check in with you and keep the other servers on track. And you're definitely going to interact with them, but it's going to be less than the others for sure.
Yes, for sure. Yep.
And then lastly, your stateroom host, who will clean your stateroom each day, do turn down service each night, and they may leave a little surprise for you during your cruise as well, like towel animals and characters and chocolates, among a few other surprises. They do a phenomenal job, your stateroom host.
Yeah.
I just loved the absolute cleanliness of our room every single day.
And it was
very
Anna
appreciated.
who was our
she's great.
stateroom host.
I don't think I met her. Did you meet her?
I met her a couple times. That's how I know her name. Yep.
That's right. The standard gratuity rate is $16 per person per night for these 4 positions. So a family of 4 for a 4-night cruise, you'd be looking at $256 in gratuities for these 4 positions.
So it's not insignificant.
No.
Yeah, just something to budget for.
Absolutely. Disney gives you the option to prepay for these gratuities. If you do nothing, Disney will automatically add this to your onboard account at the end of your cruise. If you want to adjust the amount or make any changes, you can visit guest services during your cruise to make any changes that you would like to make.
That's right. And we'll be honest, right? The first time we cruised, we were a little put off by this. Yeah. But after having sailed on DCL, like we're 100% at peace with it.
Yes.
Your serving staff, they're going to go like above and beyond, right? So like beyond, above and beyond.
Honestly, like after our first rotational dining, the next day, he had our drinks like ready to go. He's like, I know what you want. It was wonderful.
Yeah. And they get to know your names and they, they ask questions about you. So they get to know you a little bit and they told us about themselves a little bit too. So yeah, it's fun. It's a nice thing. And then outside of that, other positions that you may want to tip are the cast members who take the bags to your rooms, waiters at the lounges, and the adult exclusive dining, room service, right? So the delivery cast members, there are not tips, so you may want to tip them, just to name a few. Note though that for restaurants and lounges and even certain room service options, so some of the things that you're going to order will have an automatic 18% gratuity included in the cost, right? So that's going to be on your bill. So just be mindful of that, right? You may want to add to that, but you probably don't want to add like a 20% tip on top of an 80% tip. You know what I'm saying? So, if you want to add like 5-10%, that's totally up to you. But know that the vast majority of the time for these specific offerings, there's going to be already an 18% gratuity added.
Yes.
And yeah, like Lucy said, right, the level of service that you get on DCL is just next level, right? Most people are more than happy to tip and tip well, and we're no different. Of course, this is a subjective thing, so tip as you see fit, right? And it's a very North American thing, right? If you're coming from elsewhere in the world, like certain places in Europe or other places in the world, that's not really a thing to tip. So like
and
commonly,
that is factual, because my mom is from Wales. She moved to Canada when she was a little girl, and her family actually came over and visited us in Saskatchewan, or where we live in Saskatchewan, but they had done a bunch of places in Canada. And that was one of their things was, are we expected to tip here? I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, you tip so many places.
They were very thrown by that.
No, for sure. And like it's grown in recent years too, because like, we were teenagers. Like I worked at Subway, and like Lucy and I worked at Wendy's.
We weren't allowed to take tips if somebody left it for us. Yeah,
that's the thing there. But like now Subway will ask for tips. Like Starbucks asks for tips.
Everybody asks for tips.
It's growing into places where it wasn't before.
Absolutely.
But yeah, anyways, long story short, tip your staff on DCL, because they really do a good job.
Agreed. So next up, let's quickly talk about Castaway Club membership. So when you book your first Disney cruise, you'll automatically get enrolled in the Castaway Club. Your Castaway Club status will then be used by Disney to determine when you're going to be able to book extras and how early you'll be able to check in for your cruise. So some of the extras that you're going to be able to book are cabanas at Castaway Cay, exclusive dining options like Palo and Enchanté, activities like alcohol tasting and mixology classes, port adventures, photo packages, just to name a few. The higher your Castaway Club status, the earlier you're going to be able to book. And then obviously the most popular offerings like the Castaway Cay cabanas and mixology classes, they book up the fastest, and they will almost certainly be unavailable by the time reservations open up for the lower tier members. It's not impossible to snag some of these other offerings, but it just might take a little bit more work, like checking with cast members aboard the ship on your sailing, just to see if anything has come up, because people do cancel from time to time.
Yeah, exactly. So your first sailing, essentially you don't have Castaway status, right? So you're going to be the last to book everything. But as soon as you complete your first sailing, you become a silver member. So from sailings 2 to 5, you're silver. From 6 to 10, you're gold. 11 to 25 is platinum. And 26 or more is pearl. And if you're pearl, send us a message, because
we want to know.
Yeah, we want to know
what do you get to do?
What do you do that you did 26 cruises? Come on. You're probably advanced in age, a nice way to say that you've had many years.
You have the luxury of time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You've done a cruise every year since 98.
And good for you, as you should. You should life's too short. Go and travel.
But 26 is a lot of cruises. But anyways, the reason that this matters is for booking, like Lucy said, right, is booking restaurants, port adventures, activities, and online check-in. The booking sequence for activities is 123 days before for Pearl members, 120 days for Platinum, 105 days for Gold, 90 days for Silver, and 75 for first-time cruisers. For check-in, it's 40 days for Pearl, 38 for Platinum, 35 for Gold, 33 for Silver, and 30 days for first-time cruisers. And yeah, like Lucy said, the advantage for activities is obvious because you can just book much sooner.
That's right. And the advantage for early check-ins is that the sooner you can book your boarding time and be on the ship, the more time you're going to actually have to explore the ship, get your bearings, and then get organized. The later you board, the less time you're going to have to do all of that. Plus, the ship will already be getting pretty busy, especially places like the main buffet restaurant.
Yeah. We boarded, I think it was just after 11 or just before noon, rather.
Yes.
And first thing we did is we went up to Marceline Market instantly. And it was a ghost town.
Yeah. And it was the perfect thing for us to do.
Yep.
You'll also have not much time before the sail away party and muster drill. And if you have an early dining on top of that, you're just going to feel a little bit more rushed overall. It's not the end of the world, but it's just nice to have a little bit more time to get organized and then settled before the evening activities start up. For first-timers and really up to platinum status members, you will likely not get a cabana at Castaway Cay. These are wildly popular, and they tend to go to those higher tiers and concierge-level guests. But if you can't get a Palo reservation, for example, you can check with the restaurant directly when you board and just put yourself on a wait list. You have much more chances of snagging a last-minute reservation doing something like that than getting a cabana. So not all hope is lost. We got a Palo reservation on our first cruise using this tactic.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to actually booking a cruise, here's a few things to keep in mind. So you're going to need to have all of your travelers' legal names as they appear on their passport or any other government-issued photo ID. And you're also going to need their birth date, obviously, right? Country of citizenship and address and phone number. If you need to change these later, you actually need to cancel, and then rebook and restart. So it's really important to get this right and double check as you're filling everything out. When you book, you're going to be paying 10% of the cost of your cruise. This is your deposit. It actually used to be 20%, but it went down last year, which is really nice because if you're thinking like, $8, $10, $12,000 for a cruise, like 20%, it can be a lot for some folks, right? So it's just a lot more palatable. And once you've paid your deposit, you can kind of pay at your own pace until your final payment deadline. Note that you're not going to be able to book any activities until you've paid in full, but your final payment due date usually precedes that anyways. So you're likely going to be good. If you're one of those higher tiers where you have like your booking window is like months in advance, then that might be a thing. So you just have to make sure that you're all squared away before you book anything.
Absolutely. And when it comes to actually boarding the ship on embarkation day, you'll need government issued ID and or your passport, depending on where you're cruising to and what country you're from. So just be ultra aware of that before you even leave home to head to the port. We strongly suggest bringing a passport. You can never go wrong with that. We also strongly suggest checking in as soon as your check-in window opens online so that you're not boarding the ship last minute and then just trying to get that all sorted at the port. Travel smart, make your life as easy as possible on the day of your cruise. We will also mention that boarding the ship isn't unlike boarding an airplane. You will go through security. You can take your carry-on luggage and a checked bag with you on board as well. Disney will ship you luggage tags before your cruise for that purpose. That's not a perfect system, though. Lots of folks actually don't get their luggage tags. If that happens, don't worry. Cast members will tag your bags when you check in, either to take your shuttle or at the port. Note that your checked bags won't make it to your room until later that first evening. So just make sure that you have everything you're going to need for the first few hours in your carry-on.
Yeah, exactly. We did that. We brought our bathing suits and sandals essentially.
That was pretty much the biggest things we made
exactly.
Sure.
Just so the kids could swim essentially before
our room was ready.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, you're going to need to plan how you're getting to the port, right? So for Port Canaveral, DCL actually offers shuttles from MCO, which is Orlando International, or to and from your Disney resort. The cost is $45 per person for that. It's really convenient, and it's actually often going to get you to the port quite early. So you're potentially going to board the ship early, which is pretty nice, right? And you can also take a rideshare or a private car service. These will range from around $100 or so to a lot more. There's also parking at the port as well if you're within driving distance. Port Canaveral is about an hour or so, like we said, from the airport, and maybe like an hour and 10 minutes or so from Walt Disney World. So you're going to want to give yourself plenty of time. Another thing that you really need to consider is arriving into Orlando or wherever you're sailing from at least a day early, because if you miss your flight or your flight's delayed, the ship will not wait for you.
Will not.
So that could be super, super anxiety inducing and stressful. So yeah, just do yourself a favor, get there a day early at least, so that, by the time it's time to board the ship, you're not stuck somewhere.
Absolutely. 100%. Another big thing as well that you need to know is the DCL Navigator app. We 100% recommend downloading this before you travel and then just getting familiar with it. Before you arrive at your port, it's going to have all of your reservation details, including a fun countdown that you can keep checking back on leading up to your cruise. As soon as you arrive at the port and connect to the ship's Wi-Fi, it becomes so much more. It's going to show you your rotational dining sequence, all of the onboard activities that are available over the course of your cruise, show times, meet and greets, parties, you name it, it's going to have it. It's also going to have a chat feature where you'll be able to send messages to other guests in your party without paying for that Wi-Fi package.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually works pretty well.
It does. Yep. You and I were able to talk. That's the only way we communicated was through that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually another thing that we forgot to mention. That's part of the add-ons, right? Is that Wi-Fi is not included. Like the base level that works the Navigator app and like certain chat services is, but it's really, really basic. If you want something a little bit faster where you're going to essentially be able to like scroll social media or like stream like, shows or TV or anything, you're going to need to purchase an additional Wi-Fi package, and they're not cheap.
Yeah, I could not see Facebook for the entire time we were on that, which is fine. It's a warning for people.
Yeah.
But we were able to send messages, no problem, through WhatsApp.
Facebook Messenger as well was working. But yeah, like these packages are expensive, and not having that for a few days was actually nice. So like we understand some people, you have work or, you might just not want to unplug, right? But for us, it was not worth it. So, but just know that it's there if you want the speedy internet. And aside from that, I'm sure we're forgetting some details, right? But this is a really good starting point, an introduction to just DCL in general. And hopefully it gives you a good idea of what DCL has to offer. And, it can maybe help you decide if it's right for you.
Absolutely. There's a lot that goes into planning a cruise, but what we will say is that the work you do on the front end, that's honestly pretty much it. Once you're on the cruise, it is very, very low stress when you compare it to a trip to the parks.
Yeah, agreed.
And don't get us wrong, we absolutely love Walt Disney World, but cruises are really, really low stress overall. You don't have to worry about getting anywhere in the morning. Everything you could possibly need is super close by. It's just a much more relaxed vacation overall.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely felt not stressed at all, right?
Zero stress.
You know, you want food, you want ice cream, you just go up a couple floors, you want to go swim. Like, it's just, I don't know.
There was even a huge laundromat, essentially, is what I'll call it.
Yeah.
That was an extra add-on, but it was just nice to have that there. Like, so, okay, we're kind of running out of underwear. Go do a load.
Yeah. No, totally. And, the first time we cruised, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it, but I really have fallen in love with it. And I do love cruising.
Our whole family has.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, thank you for joining us today to talk Disney Cruise Line. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And as always, if you could leave us a rating and review, it would be greatly appreciated. If you choose to do so, you can leave reviews right on Apple Podcasts. And for Spotify, you can leave a rating.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Go.to-Disney, as well as on our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney. We share some helpful reels here as well as some fun ones. The link tree in the show notes will take you to all of our socials.
Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.